Hey guys, this is Blake. Yeah, my poster fell again. So sorry about that. But I'm here to review Saw 3D, and yes, I hate that title too. Now, this is a difficult movie to review, especially in a video review, because you're either going to like it or hate it, and usually the hate it part is going to win out the like it part. But I did like it, and hopefully I can explain why, despite the fact that I do consider it to be pretty bad. Now, of course, I've been a big fan of the Saw movies. Even though they've gotten worse and worse, I still think they've actually held a fairly high standard compared to most, horror franchises. The only one I could say that really compares is the Friday the 13th movie, just because I can't think of any of those movies that I actually hated. And same with the Saw movies, in contrast to the Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween movies, which did have their real bad entries. So, with Saw 3D, the main reason I liked it was that I actually cared for what happened. I was interested in the characters, I was interested in the events that was happening, and I allowed myself to become emotionally invested in it. So, I was often surprised, and I was often on the edge of my seat, etc., etc. That's when it comes down to it is the most important thing to me. But it's also something that's not going to necessarily work on you. I've heard many other people pretty much say the exact opposite, that they didn't care. And nothing wrong with that. It's just how we all have different opinions on those types of things. Or, sometimes it connects to us, sometimes it doesn't. The problem, I think, with the Saw movies, what began to happen in the last few, was that they become too predictable in their unpredictability. You had the first one I loved, the second one I thought was really good too, and the third one I thought was really good. But the thing that made them stick out was that when they ended, I was often shocked. I was impressed. They left an impression on me. Saw 4's ending kind of pissed me off because by that point it was becoming redundant and it kills off a main character in a complete mean-spirited way that I really did not like. Saw 5 is considered to be the worst of the movies, but I didn't hate it. It was just 2 stars. But yeah, I saw everything coming, so it's like, Jesus, why are we supposed to care? And the 6th movie I thought was, when it comes to it, the worst at this, just because I couldn't care at all, just because I knew that there was little chance that this guy's going to survive. And so I just didn't even bother putting anything to it. But I've enjoyed all the movies on various extents. The only one I'd say I didn't enjoy was Saw 5. So with Saw 3D, I'm not going to say it ends necessarily differently, but it was the first time that I was actually happy with how it ended, but to a point. I'm actually going to explain later when I do the whole spoiler thing, where the ending also, I think, really messes up. But the problem with the movie, for one, the 3D sucks. I mean, I thought it looked cool in the trailers, but it turns out what you see in the trailers was mostly filmed just for the trailers. None of that was really here. There was only a few good parts where at one point somebody's intestines are kind of flying at the screen. An explosion has some piece of debris come at you, and a character throws a saw at one point at the screen. That's pretty much it. And I thought Piranha 3D was much more effective, and I think that was post-conversion. I thought it suffered from a lot of the usual flaws, like I hate how the police force is portrayed as like the biggest idiots ever. And, seriously, they're even dumber than usual here. And, I think actually probably the biggest flaw, which I had the same issue with the last few movies, is that you pretty much have 2 different stories that never really connect enough. It felt like a Godfrey Ho type movie, except with actual production values, where they take like 2 different movies and put them together and somehow it's cohesive. But it's not. They actually never tie in the whole thing with Bobby to the Hoffman subplot. And I thought that was kind of strange. Even though I liked both stories enough, they needed some sort of connection there. And that's one thing I thought they started losing. Even Saw 6 kind of connected the stories. But that was, I think, one of the weaker points. A lot of people were disappointed that there's not enough Hoffman, Jigsaw, or Dr. Gordon. And yes, he does come back, but Dr. Gordon only has like 2 minutes worth of screen time, and his acting is pretty bad. And he's gotten fat too. But then, yeah, Hoffman, maybe 10, 15 minutes total, and Jigsaw, 1 or 2 scenes. And there's a lot of plot holes to be found. I guess I don't mind spoiling it, because they reveal it pretty early, is that Bobby, the so-called survivor, is actually lying. Well, a lot of people complain that wouldn't he know that Jigsaw's still out there? Wouldn't he get pissed off? I can kind of still see that happening just because, nobody ever thinks that kind of stuff's going to happen to them. But Jigsaw has a flashback, or he has a flashback where Jigsaw actually meets him. And it's at a book signing after his book took off, and Jigsaw's pretty much making a point that he knows he lied. But I kept thinking, was Jigsaw that famous in the earlier movies? Because Jigsaw's alive and healthy, so this had to be before Saw 3, and actually, since I think they probably knew his identity in Saw 2, so this had been actually before Saw 2, but I don't remember him being that famous. I mean, even Adam from the first film, I don't think knew who Jigsaw was. Gordon only knew because he was involved with the case. So there's a lot of stuff like that, a lot of plot holes and a lot of contrivances. Ultimately, if this movie reminds me of anything, it's Scream 2. I like Scream 2 because, like I said, I like the characters. I was invested in the story. But that movie, when you dissect it, it really is a bad movie. And Saw 3D is like that to me. So if you liked the previous films, go ahead and see this in 2D. But if you don't, it's nothing extreme. It's nothing great. But this is the part where I'm going to spoil in about 5 seconds. If you want to read my full review, just check the link in my description. But so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the problem with the ending was that, well, I actually did like the fact that they kill off Hoffman, sort of. I thought even though I like Hoffman, I didn't like him at first, but as the movies kept going, I kept liking him more and more because he's a real badass villain. I think he needed to die, and I kind of liked how they tied it in with the bathroom from the first movie. The problem is I kept thinking, I wonder if the filmmakers realized this. Didn't Detective Matthews get out of that easily? I mean, he just broke his ankle and he crawled out of there. And I think if Hoffman or Detective Matthews could do that, Hoffman's even more likely to. And I just think if they do another Saw movie, Hoffman's going to be coming after the people who did that. And he could probably beat them. If Hoffman is probably the only character who could take on Jigsaw. And in a way, he actually defeats him by killing his wife. But one thing that really did bug me was how Jigsaw's legacy played out. Now, the film reveals that Dr. Gordon has been working with Jigsaw this whole time, after the first movie, of course. And then when Dr. Gordon attacks Hoffman, there's 2 guys with him. And that's apparently supposed to be Jigsaw's legacy. Now, he has a cult following. How do they explain this? By having 3 guys, 1 a cripple. What? I don't know why I even kept thinking about this, but I kept thinking of Halloween 3. And Halloween 3, I don't hate it as much as a lot of people do, but I also don't really like it. But I always liked how the ending was, how it's like this apocalyptic, something bad's about to happen. And I think that's what they should have had here. It should have ended where you just see like a bunch of people in those pig head masks, and they're about to grab all these different various people. And you make a point that this is now spreading throughout the state, throughout the country, I guess throughout the world would be a little cheesy. But, this should have been real massive in scale. And the way they did it just makes it feel like they ran out of money. And I don't know why if they did run out of money, why they just put a little bit more into it, just because these movies are going to be successful. The Saw 6 was the underperformer, and that still made, I think, like either $60 or $80 million. On low budgets like these, that's a huge profit. So I thought that was weird. So if you don't like Saw 3D, I could definitely see why. But I did, so I guess that sucks for you guys, and lucky me. And that's it. I'll see you later.